Hi, I'm Eric Soriano, Commercial Sales Rep with Hermes Landscaping, here today to talk about buying a pre-designed irrigation system versus a design-build low-bid irrigation system. And I want to go over some of the major information points that you need to know before you buy an irrigation system as an owner or a general contractor. And the first one is, we need to know where the tap is going to be for the irrigation system. This particular site is a 115-acre site. It's got several miles of irrigation pipe on it, and there's a lot of critical data that needs to go into the design process. There's really no way to bid this irrigation system without designing it first. There's so many variables. It's a very complex system, and we see a lot of people buying irrigation out in our market, design, build, low bid. And they're saying, all right, now how do we define what the scope is? There's only one way to define scope in an irrigation system. It's through an irrigation plan. Otherwise, there's no way of knowing how many feet of pipe there are, how many valves, how much wire, how many heads. There's just no way without designing the system first. So I'm going to go over some of the critical data points. The first one, like I say, is being the tap location. And why is that important? Well, it's important because we need to know the elevation of that tap. Is it, 1,050 feet above sea level? And then the rest of the site, we need to have spot elevations to know what the elevation changes between the tap and all these components of the system. Because for every foot of elevation change, there's a loss in PSI or a gain in PSI of the water pressure. Another critical piece of data is the size of the tap. We're limited by the size of the tap we get, but we need to be consultants. Our irrigation designer needs to consult and say, we need at least a 2-inch, in this case a 3-inch tap, a 3-inch meter, and then there's some other critical data we need to have. We need to know what kind of backflow preventer is required by that municipality. In this case, it's an RPZ, reduced pressure zone. Without that piece of information, you really can't design the system yet, because an RPZ backflow might pull 12 PSI of pressure off the system versus a double check that might pull 5 PSI. So we've got to know certain things before we can even really bid the system, because we need to know the elevations, the tap size, we need to know the elevation of the rest of the site and all the components. So my question here today is, how can anyone buy an irrigation system that's not been designed yet, that's design build with a promise of design build, but they'll buy a system based on, oh yeah, I've got everything covered, but they don't have any idea of the equipment involved in that system. Does it need a booster pump? That's a pretty big question on a 115-acre site. Do I have a big enough water supply, or am I going to have to do some things to make that work by breaking down zones into smaller zones and increasing runtime? So there's a lot of unknowns there's too many unknowns to buy a system undesigned, in my opinion. And I'll go over several reasons why today, but these are just a few. This is just the overall site plan. So then I'm going to move down and I'm going to talk about the determining run times in that system based on the data we get here, the tap size, the backflow preventer, the elevation changes, the overall area of coverage. And next I'll talk about some key data that the owner's going to want to know about the future use of water. Okay, so that's important because the most expensive part of an irrigation system over a 20-year lifespan is the water. Signing off, this is Eric Soriano with Hermes Landscaping.